Apparently, so there's this like edit that's been going around of Pedro Pascal from the second Kingsman movie where he plays Whiskey. And in that movie, he's like, it's a whole thing. I'll show it to you after the podcast. But apparently,
I have seen the movie at the very least.
Apparently, there's only 600 of these edits. And I have seen every single one of them.
What?
Not because I've searched for them, because they have popped up on my For You page.
Like specifically, it's actually 600 that you've actually seen, or is that like
it's a guesstimate?
Okay, but like you think it's that's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
That is wild.
I have seen the same interview of Pedro Pascal talking to that interviewer where she goes, "Hi, Daddy," and he goes, "Hey there, Mama." I have seen that interview 400 times. That's beautiful. I have seen the interview where he calls himself a zaddy.
Yeah,
maybe 900 times. Like, it is actually ridiculous how deep on Pedro Pascal.
I did not realize you were like that big of a Pedro Pascal.
I mean, I am, of course.
Seemingly, yeah. That's crazy.
Because if there's one thing about me, it's that if there is a father figure with a adopted child that is rugged, that he just came into contact with this child and now he must protect them, they have my heart.
That's fair. So have you been watching the Last of Us show then?
No.
Okay, never mind.
I haven't seen it yet. I am planning to watch it.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it yet. I watched all of The Mandalorian. And then
because his face is on there so much in them.
Yeah. No, listen, the face reveal hits.
True. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Also his voice, like I love The Mandalorian. Anyways, there's also like Hopper from Stranger Things. Peak love.
Pedro Pascal did not play Hopper.
No, he didn't. But what I'm saying is,
if retconning history right now, is this Mandela effect shit?
If there is a rugged man who adopts a child that he now is sworn to protect, I love it.
That's fair, honestly. I still for a second I thought you were trying to.
No.
Second guessing myself. I'm like, dude.
But I am a big fan of Pedro Pascal.
That is fair. That's why one of the reasons we need to watch the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, the Nick Cage movie where he plays Nick Cage. And
I'm super down.
The co-star, it's Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal are the two stars of that, and Pedro Pascal is fucking terrific in that.
He is terrific in everything he does. I love him.
Honestly, we stand hard.
He's such a goofball too.
Oh my god, yes.
Listening to him in interviews, like I watched this other interview 900 times where he's talking about how he's an iPad kid.
What does that mean?
He like tells the interviewer, he's like, "Take this thing away from me. You mean nothing to me."
Oh my god, that's beautiful.
I love him.
Honestly, we stand Pedro Pascal. This is add him to the list. It's another one on the list of
stan
people
accounts.
We stand.
Yes,
we like a lot of people.
You know,
we're big fans
else
of people.
We stand?
Who?
Chris Evans.
Segue to the movie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cynical Cinephiles podcast. I am your host, Caitlin. And over here, we have my co-host.
Oh, me. Caleb, hello. This is the energy we maintain for every podcast of ours. If you're a new listener, this is always the tone, because we like to set ambience, aesthetic,
we like to
vibes.
We like to swallow in between every.
I'm gonna take a sip of water right now. That's what I'm gonna. Look at me swallowing. Great. Okay, so
you took that too far.
I didn't say it. I did not say.
Because we whatever.
I didn't say, for the record, I said nothing. I just had an audible I didn't say anything. So, if anything,
What do we do here? What is going on?
We watch movies. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think so.
We half watch, half think, half write. That's not how math works, but I am not a math major, so that's works out for me. No engineers here. But something we do have here is that we pick things, each of us. Things that we pick and we want sometimes some weeks some episodes I'll pick something, a movie to watch that we can talk about. Other weeks Caitlin picks something. This is one of those weeks. And what did you pick, Caitlin?
Today I picked Knives Out.
That's a banger.
It is a banger. I had never seen it before. I had no idea what it was about. All I knew going into this movie is that we had Chris Evans and a cable knit chunky sweater. Oof. And that is all I needed to be sold into watching this movie. However, unfortunately, that is not all this movie is about. So, Caleb, if you will give us a quick synopsis, please.
Okay. Well, think about nepotism babies. This is Nepotism Baby, the movie. So, the murder mystery format, right? Well, there's this director named Rian Johnson, and there's an internet meme about how he subverts expectations, and it's like the whole thing is like he always subverts your expectations, and everything he writes subverts. We're gonna use that phrase a lot probably, because I will. It's been memed to death, and it's like lost all meaning to an amusing point. But when I talk about Rian Johnson, I just find it too amusing and too perfect to use it, so I'm just going to use it. So I apologize, but. Not sorry. Anyway, so you take the murder mystery format, you do the Rian Johnson thing, subvert expectations, and the murder mystery is not quite a murder mystery because there has been a murder or a suicide or something. There's been a death, and it's this old rich guy. He's a dude. Yeah.
He's a pretty good dude.
He's a pretty cool dude. His name's actually blanking on me right now. Harlan. I don't know how I forgot that. But, the brain's a little wild. So Harlan, he's dead, and the police are asking some questions. There's this big old family, loaded cast. We love to see it.
And there's also a detective. Mysterious no detective. One knows who hired him.
Yep. Benoit Blanc, renowned, famous, got the best accent in the world. And yeah, he's basically solving a mystery. And then there's also this other person who is the star, played by Ana de Armas, and she has another role to play. Which I'll just say what it is because it's still revealed in like the first 30 minutes, and also the movie came out like a while ago, and I'm like, meh. Spoiler warning. The reason that this film subverts expectations is because it gives you the answer to the murder mystery at the start of the 30 minutes into the movie. Like they just show you the murder and then instead of being a murder mystery for the majority of the runtime, it's actually a thriller until maybe it switches back around again at the end. Mm-hmm. So that's the main gist of it. Yeah. Synopses.
You did a good job with that.
Yes.
That was actually on your listing rank of all the synopses you've ever given. I think that's your best one.
That's really sad.
No, usually your synopses are like, so there's these people and this thing happened. I'm just tell us them what it's about.
I think that's the best way to deliver.
You are so well spoken until I ask you to synopsize something, and then you've never heard words before.
Yeah, I can't do it justice, really.
Oh,
I can't.
Word.
Yeah. So.
I feel like we should talk about our cast of characters first, right?
Yes,
because I think that it's a massive cast.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge family tree. It's only kind of clear who's in what, who's married to who, because they're not really what it's about. We have Jamie Lee Curtis in here.
Yeah. Which is funny given that, have you seen her whole thing about Nepo babies recently?
No.
Okay, so this is actually, I haven't made this connection until today, but recently, or a few weeks ago, there was this whole thing where Jamie Lee Curtis came under fire because she's, of course, a Nepo baby herself. I can't remember, her father or uncle or something, whoever it was, got her into acting and all this stuff. And then when she was accused, oh yeah, so how do you think nepotism played? And she got so upset. She's like, how dare you even insinuate that was ever a thing? That's not even slightly anything. And she was her character in the movie was her. Yeah. And I was like, how are you in this? Like, that's you. That's the character that you're making fun of is you. So I thought that was very ironic. But yeah, she is in this movie. And,
I thought she did really good in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And she is, what's her whole shtick? Like, what does she do for work?
She does. Fuck, I don't even remember. She does something for work. It was self-made.
She ran a company that her dad started.
Yeah, or gave her like a loan. I know he gave him like $1 million loans and stuff like this. It's basically, and then they're all very egotistical about being like, oh, we're all self-started and we're self-made. But all of them just got their money, their small loan of $1 million. That's like literally what it was. Yeah. So that's kind of the whole thing there. But yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is there, and then
we have the woman from Hereditary.
Yes. Oh my God.
What's her name?
Toni Collette. Toni Collette from Hereditary. Phenomenal actress. Just absolutely phenomenal. And I will say the fact it's funny because she just has such a small role in this movie, and I wouldn't say that I would want it changed at all, but I do feel it is a shame that she wasn't,
I mean, she's Gwyneth Paltrow in this movie.
Like, I mean,
she even has her like own goop.
That's true. She's just doing the influencer
Isn't it called,
grind,
like,
selling
Flume or something like that. It's like such a clear like.
She's
parallel.
just Gwyneth Paltrow. It's beautiful.
It's so fucking funny.
Oh my God, yeah. Her and she plays it terrifically.
Yeah, we also have the chick from 13 Reasons Why.
Oh yeah. She plays the character of Meg, and she is like a college progressive who doesn't actually seem to have values and is not actually as progressive as she thinks she is.
Right. We also have Ricky Lindholm. I'm not Googling it right now.
No,
You're
of course not.
Wrong. Yeah. I just have my notes. We have Ricky Lindholm, who played Donna, who has such a small role in this movie. But I think that's such a shame because she is so fucking funny. Because she's from Something to Notes. What is that band called?
I don't know.
It's like they write the music.
Oh, yeah, Garfunkel and Oates.
Yes.
Yeah.
She is from Garfunkel and Oates.
Yeah. We stand. That's the good stuff.
And then, of course, Chris Evans.
Oof. Who's glorious?
Captain America. He is so fucking good in this movie.
He's terrific. He chews up the scenery. He fucking
eats this fucking movie up. It's so funny because I have a note written in my notes where I was talking about, it was like halfway through the movie, and I was like, is Chris Evans like a small role in this movie? Because I was like, we have barely seen this man.
Yeah.
And then it's like the morning of the will reading, and he comes in and he line after line after line, banger after banger, and then the whole movie progresses, and I was like, oh, he ate that shit up.
Yeah. No, pretty much as soon as he enters, he's like a main character from then on, like a primary force, and he's so good. He's just, oh my God, he's so fucking funny too. And
he's so funny, and he plays it so well. Yeah. I love Captain America. Like, I love Chris Evans, Captain America. Listen, I know you made that face because everyone's like a whole like Captain America hater. I love Chris Evans as Captain America, and that's why Captain America is one of my favorites.
That's fair. I mean, Captain America's solid. I mean, a little based. I'm kidding. I kid. No, Chris Evans he's phenomenal. I mean, and everything. I always love him. He has such a screen presence to him.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, I will admit, I much prefer seeing him play more of an asshole. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was Human Torch before Captain America.
Oh yeah. And he plays that kind of that cocky energy so well. Oh. I mean, he does such a good job playing the all-American man. I'm Captain America, but he really just shines with this
absolutely
with the cocky asshole quippy characters.
It's really just he always thrives in those roles. I mean, Scott Pilgrim, that's basically his character. He's just so good at, I don't know, he's able to tap into that little force. And then it's also, I mean, a lot, I'll throw out this story right now because I think it's I know a lot of behind the scenes things because I've watched a lot of content, interviews, all that stuff. One of my favorite little facts about the movie is originally they were going for more of an R rating with the script, and as they were shooting it, Rian Johnson was like, now we're gonna go PG-13. I think they got away with like 2 fucks in the movie, and that's about it. But the thing is originally that scene with Chris Evans sitting down when he first goes to the will reading and everything, and he goes eat shit, that whole bit was not actually scripted at all, because originally he was just telling everyone to like fuck off and like fuck you, and they didn't know what to replace it with. And Rian Johnson's like, so we need to come up with something because we want to do this like PG-13. And then Chris Evans said, and I think this is almost the exact quote, he goes, well, I mean, everyone loves a good old eat shit, you know? There's nothing wrong with a good eat shit. It's like, you know?
And it works so well in the movie.
Yeah, he rolls it off.
So fucking funny.
Yeah, and he just came up with that shit and rolled with it. And then Rian Johnson was like, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. That's why we have you
100%.
here. He's so good. He's so good. Oh, my God. And then, so that's all like in the family, right? And there, you know, there's a couple others, but... You know, they're also very good. I just, you know, their actors are not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't want to just. I was like sitting here just like reading off actors, and I was like, that's not what this podcast is.
Yeah,
we're gonna cut it there short.
The thing is, the cast is so massive that,
and there's so many like all-star players in this cast as well. Like everyone is so fucking good. The chemistry, like between everyone, is so fucking good. Ana de Armas is incredible in this movie. She plays Marta is Harlan's caregiver and nurse, and she does so good. And her whole shtick, her character shtick, is that she can't lie without throwing up. And it is so fun. Like, what a unique fucking character trait that like plays so well to like who her character is as a person.
Absolutely.
Where she is so pure and she just wants to do the right thing and protect her family and take care of this old man who genuinely, like, she sees this family, she knows what assholes everyone is, and she just wants to be a good caregiver to this man and like be a friend to him, and doesn't expect anything in return other than some, you know, getting paid for her time. And it's to the point where literally the idea of lying makes her throw up.
Which is, that ties exactly into one of the things I love about this movie, is that it clearly has so much love for like the you know, old murder mysteries from like, you know, a good amount of time ago. And it's it clearly loves like some of those sillier, campier aspects, like something like her throwing up every time she thinks about lying, like that sort of like it's very kind of silly, but it works so well.
The whole sorry, continue.
Just because it's played genuinely. They don't half-ass it. They commit to it, and they clearly care about it. And it is silly, but they work it in naturally. And it fits the movie.
It's so silly in such a serious way. And I feel like even so far as like the poster for the movie really shows that, where you have like this really serious looking poster, but the color palette in it is all these like bright, almost neon vibrant colors to kind of offset what you would normally see for like a thriller or like a murder mystery, right? It pays homage to Clue. It even talks in the movie about how like, oh, this isn't a game of Clue or whatever. And one of the things that I like the most is, so I recently just read one of Agatha Christie's books.
Ooh, that's perfect for this, because these are very Agatha Christie inspired.
Yes, exactly.
Like, specifically.
And that's what I was going to bring up, is because so I read the first Herculean Point murder mystery, which is a Murderous Affair at Styles. Or is it Mysterious? It doesn't matter. But when I was like looking at the character of DeBlanc, like the whole movie, he is so clearly inspired by the main detective of like Agatha Christie's work.
It's like a lot of those older detectives who are very caught up in their own metaphors and like to chew on like these big monologues, and like it takes these tropes and it just handles them with care, and it does exaggerate them and play around with them and like build them into something new, but it's just done clearly with so much passion. And that's the thing I love about like Rian Johnson specifically as a creator, is like, he has this whole subverting expectations thing, and a lot of people are like, how dare you change up these forms? Like that was his thing with Star Wars, which I'm not even going to touch on that more because people will probably get angry just for even mentioning that movie. But the thing is like, he clearly has passion behind it. Like he changes things up and he changes the structure. He wants to approach it new, and he takes the formula and twists it around to do something completely new with it. But it's not out of like ill will or like wanting to improve upon it or some shit like that. It's because he cares so much about it, and you can tell. You can tell the passion. It's beautiful. But I think, you know, coming off of that, I feel like we should also we covered a lot of the cast members, but I think the biggest one to specifically touch on with this whole discussion is Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc. Yeah. Because holy shit,
he is so fucking good.
He's just, I love him
so
much. I like genuinely, and Glass Onion just makes you love him even more. But I think he's like possibly my favorite like film detective ever.
Yeah, he does this thing, and it becomes apparent by the end of the movie where kind of throughout the movie you're wondering how he hasn't caught on to what happened, because we as the audience know what happened within the first 30 minutes, and he's supposedly this world-renowned detective who can solve everything, whatever, and he can't, and he's like asking all these questions and at the end of the movie you find out he had it solved within the first moment meeting Marta, but he wanted to know why, because he saw her and he saw her character and was like, that doesn't seem right. And so he like needed to figure out what happened, and in doing so figured out that it was just a suicide all along, and who was actually responsible for it.
He needed to find the donut hole within the mini donut that filled the original donut. That was the and it's because what I really love about Benoit Blanc is it's just like it's not just like a lot of detectives like Sherlock or people are very portrayed as like they're closed off. They don't get emotions. It's all about logic and needing to solve the case, and that's all they care about. But he has such an empathetic side to him, and it's like shit like that where it's like he immediately, like within meeting Marta, he sees blood on her shoe and he pretty much figures out the whole immediate thing with her involvement. Like knows that she was the one involved and all that. But he doesn't speak out about it. He doesn't say anything, and he waits to actually figure out everything because he can sense that she's a good person. He immediately gets that she's a good nurse, a good person, and he wants to like he cares like I don't know, it's just he cares, and he wants to do the right thing ultimately. And I think that's just so rare for a detective to kind of have that sort of, I don't know, morality or like just like, I don't know, it's just so kind-hearted.
Because you always want to write a detective as very black and white. Like, I'm here for justice, like a very Batman-esque approach, when it was like, it's not about that. It's about who benefits and who really lost in this situation.
And it's and he even like stands up for her towards the end of the movie when he interrupts and he's like, none of you have been good to her at all. You've all treated her like shit. And he like goes off on them because he's seeing this, and because
he finally opens the toxicology report and it all clicks to him. Because he's like telling her it's a bad idea to confess to the family that she was responsible for the death. And he insists that she goes with a police escort to do it. And then he knows what the toxicology report is going to say, so he doesn't open it. And then as she's about to speak, he opens it. He's like, no, fuck you guys. You don't get shit. Like, you have treated her like shit. You treated your father and your grandfather like shit. You have used everyone. You have abused everyone. You guys don't get shit.
Yeah. And I do love that. And I do think it's also he even very early in the movie has like a slight dig where he's like, well, like you, I'm a self-made man myself.
Yes.
And,
and
it's like, you can tell he's
funny.
It's so good. He's such a real fucking dude. I don't know.
The aesthetic of the whole movie is just so immaculately done. One of the first notes that I have written is that because it was right with this like shot of the house going up with the like violin playing, and I was like, the vibes are incredible. And you see like the German shepherds running out.
It's so good.
So good.
Literally the aesthetic, the whole set design of everything. Like the entire house is so meticulously crafted, and there's so many fucking genius little bits. Like specifically the fucking circle of knives.
Yes,
that's such a brilliant set piece.
Beautiful. And like the callback to knives throughout the whole movie is just so well done.
And it's like, and then Benoit Blanc is having his whole like final monologue, kind of deciphering. And he of course sits right down in the thing, and all the knives are surrounding him. it's beautiful. They do so many cool fucking things. They play with every texture and everything in the house. It's just this atmosphere it just hits so hard.
I also want to point out, and I don't remember what the exact quote is, but at the beginning, and I thought this was such a cool callback, so at the begining, we hear this monologue that Harlan is saying, where he picks up the knife that he kills himself with, and he's like, he talks about how it's a stage knife, and we know it's not a stage knife because he kills himself with it, right? And then at the end, Chris Evans' character goes to stab Marta, and he grabs one of the knives off of the throne of knives and goes and stabs her, and that one's a fake fucking knife.
Literally.
It's so good. It was such a cool.
Oh my God.
It was such a cool piece of foreshadowing with such a delicious payoff.
Honestly, no, I had written that down as well, because he goes on that whole monologue. He's like, oh, and you can barely tell the difference anymore between what's a stage knife and a real one when you get this deep in my head. But he also, throughout the movie, he talks multiple times in the flashbacks we see. He's like, Harlan's the most similar to me. He specifically, he's like, I see way too much of myself in that boy. They have that thing. So him having his own whole struggle, being like, I can't even tell the difference between a real knife and a stage knife. And then having Harlan's, or not Harlan, Ransom's downfall be because he grabbed a knife and thought it was real. It's so perfect. And there's so many things late in the movie that tie back to early things. There's so many running bits. It's terrific. One of my other favorite things is the second shot of the movie is of the mug, the my house, my rules, my coffee. And then that's how the movie ends. It's it bookends the movie, It's it starts with that cup and then it ends with that cup. And because
at the first one is the person is delivering the cup to Harlan, discovers he's dead, and then she's standing there with her little my cup, my rules, my coffee. It's so good.
It's so good. There's just and there's so many good little bits with the family, right? There's a couple of different times they'll have different characters be like, oh, I mean, I wanted you to be at the funeral, but I was outvoted, know? Or my real favorite is when every time that one of the characters mentions where she's from, they list a different country. They're like Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil. And one Ecuador. That's the other one. Yep.
It just shows that they don't know her at all, because they're all like, oh yeah, she's like family to us, but they don't know shit about her.
Absolutely. And you can really tell as soon as that's when the shoe really drops, as soon as she's announced as the she at a certain point in the movie, Harlan's will gets unveiled, and he gives everything, all his house, all his money, all his company, all to Marta. And everyone else
loses their shit.
They lose their goddamn mind.
Yes.
And it's beautiful to see, honestly, because you can really just instantly that huge shift with all of them. And the knives come out at that point, really, literally.
Yeah. There's a quote that I'm gonna save for quote of the movie where they actually quote the title of the movie, and I thought it was so beautiful.
Oh, there's so many fucking terrific quotes. I'm very excited because I have so many different things. There's just so many brilliant nuggets, and again, it goes to Rian Johnson as a fucking writer. That he's the interesting thing with the script actually is that I can't remember the exact year, but I believe he actually first conceptualized the movie in 2004, 2005. That's how old, long ago this was. And he kept tooling around with it. And I think he had the screenplay by a few years later, but it took until 2019 for this movie to even him to actually make it. And I think that, that's cool that he got it. You can tell again, that's passion.
There's so
put
much
into it.
care.
Yeah.
And everything is so meticulously done. Even as far as to how the mystery gets solved, the actual explanation for the mystery is so convoluted and well thought out and crazy.
Yeah, and it's so one of my favorite things is at the beginning of the movie, before we get all the info about how Marta was the one involved in Harlan's death, the main one, before we learn all the stuff about Ransom at the end, all the clues we're getting about different timings and stuff, the bulk of that's about Marta stuff, seeing him down the stairs and all these different times. But the what's interesting is they do sneak a couple clues about Ransom in there.
Yes, because the dog dog's barking.
Exactly.
That was one thing I was thinking throughout the movie. I was like, the dogs love Marta, so why were the dogs barking?
And at 3 a.m. too, which was way past after everything had happened.
Yes.
Like they set that little note right at the beginning. And there's so many subtle things like that like you kind of just overlook because Marta solves so much of it.
Yeah.
That you just, those little threads just kind of get ignored. And that's why it's so brilliantly done.
It's such a satisfying ending.
It really is. It just perfectly sums everything up. It comes all back together. Everything gets tied up. It's just beautiful.
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I'd like to summarize what actually happened. So essentially, they go up to play. So Harlan and Marta go up to play their nightly round of Go, and she's going to give him his meds. She gives him his meds. After giving him his meds, she realizes she switched up the 2 bottles. So she had given him what she thought was morphine, and she gave him 100 milligrams of morphine instead of his 100 milligrams of trioxane or something like that. And so she panics. She immediately reaches for her drug that would save his life. She can't find it. And so she tries to call an ambulance for him. He's like, no, listen, I don't want you going down for this. Here's what you need to do. And it basically explains to her, as if it's his own novel he's writing, how to get away with murder. And he slits his own throat in order to get her out of it, right?
Yeah.
So then she's like trying to cover up everything. She's covering up the tracks, and she's covering up all this shit. Well, it turns out that she gave him the correct dose because fucking Ransom went and switched the dose, because Harlan told Ransom that he was going to leave everything to Marta. This pissed Ransom off. He goes and switches around her meds so that way she would give him the 100 milligrams of morphine. But because she has done this every single night for God knows how long, she picked up the correct weight of the bottle that had the correct viscosity and gave it to him. That's when she saw she mixed up the bottles and panicked. He also took her emergency dose. Oh my God, that's so fucking cool.
It's beautiful. And I really do love, because I think it's so integral to the movie that that she didn't actually fuck that up there.
Right.
That wasn't like something she just happened to fuck up. Like, I think that the heart of the movie really lies in that. And like his line there where he's like, you knew this, you've done it a million times because you're a good nurse. And I think that's ultimate. Like, I just feel like without that thrilling, if she had actually fucked it up, that would, it
wouldn't have paid off.
Yeah. I feel like that really is like the big thing in the end, because she didn't just make some mindless fuck up that led to all this stuff and it happened to get resolved like by it being switched beforehand. No, she made the right decision, and it was just that Ransom's fuckery had confused her and made this trick, made Harlan be like, oh, I need to slit my throat because to save you, even though he was never poisoned or not poisoned, overdosing in the first place.
Right.
Like, it's just it's so well executed with such care, and I love it.
Even down to, he switched around the notes of who was sending the blackmail note.
Oh my God,
and he kills what's her name? Fran.
Yeah.
And you can like see the exact moment where he realized that he fucked up and that he needed to get on her side and be like, well, I'm going to help you get out of this.
Yeah. That's another like really fun thing I like that they call back to at the end, where it's like, as soon as she finishes telling him the story, he's like clearly shocked, because I mean, after watching, that he's like realizing that she did switch them, so this whole time like she's fine,
she is completely innocent.
Yeah, so he's like, oh fuck. But then it's like the first thing he says is he's talking about how the last thing that he said to Harlan was about how she could beat him at Go, and that was like a whole thing. And I love how they call back to the at the end when they're like, so why would that have come up in conversation? Why would the topic of the will relate to Marta? And that was like another huge like bombshell clue.
Yes.
That very much like, if you can pick up on that, you can like see where that's going. And there's so many just intricate little spots throughout.
There's this like line at the end where Daniel Craig's character goes, and she bested you once again, because she could always beat Harlan at Go, and she essentially beat Ransom at Go as well.
Yeah. And she beat him by being a good person too. Like his entire plan too with like Fran and everything was to implicate her for that. He was gonna put out an anonymous phone call and get them to come arrest her at the scene of the crime.
But then she performed CPR.
And called 911.
Yeah.
Immediately, knowing that she was gonna lose the inheritance, knowing that like she would go to jail, that like all this because
her mom might get deported.
Yeah.
All because she wanted to make sure she saved this woman's life, and this woman ended up passing anyways. And I love the scene at the end where she throws up on him because she tells him that Fran is alive and willing to talk. And so he admits fucking everything. Oh. That whole monologue at the end is so good. And then she throws up on him. And he's like, look, that means you're lying. And she's like, I am lying. Fran's dead. And you just admitted to her murder.
Goes so hard. Good. Goes so hard. Although I always find it very... Yeah, I just think it's always very funny because she does answer the actual phone call, and I can only imagine what the doctor's thing, because he's like, so by the way, the person she died, and then she goes, thanks doctor, that's great news, and hangs up. Like this doctor's probably like, what the fuck, bro? Yeah. Like it's just such a small thing, but I always, every time I watch it, I just like cringe a little. I don't know, I get secondhand anxiety. There's a lot of higher tensions and stakes here, but I'm like, oh no, she said something bad in a social situation. How could she? That's my real fear. Screw the murder. You can go to jail, but I mean that's oh man, yeah. I don't know. It's just I love it.
And one thing that I also really love is that each character has their own little like quirk. Because I mean we've talked at length about Marta and her quirk about throwing up, but you also have the literal Nazi in the family.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so funny too. Just like even he's very barely in it, but just like the comments that they make about him,
it's so good.
It's terrific. And I really do think it's super interesting seeing kind of like the politics of the family as well. Some of them do fall more, conservative, some more liberal, but the thing is ultimately they're all fucking rich and all their morals are tossed out the window at the end. I think that's like one of my, like with fucking Meg, like I said earlier, it's like her whole thing. She's like in college and she's all progressive and she's like the one who's like the ally and she's great. But some of the shit she said, like at one point she, I think she says this to Ransom. She's like, yeah, you fucking trust fund prick. And I'm like, yeah, do you know how you're paying for your college though?
Right.
Like, how are you going to use that as like a huge insult against him when that's like her, like
you too though.
Literally, I'm like, how are you like? She's like, oh my god, it's like so the lack of self-awareness. And then she, of course, immediately gives up like all this horrible information about Marta that like could fuck her entire life and her entire family completely over. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I just was scared, and she just clearly just like she'll throw that away in an instant if need be. And all of them, they use Marta as like an argumentative tool. They're like, oh, hey, come here, Marta, can you tell us about how being a real American, I mean, you can work for this stuff. And then they're all forcing her there, and then some of them are trying to pretend to be like, oh no, we're here for you, but they clearly aren't, and they backstab her at a moment's notice. It's just I don't know, I just love it's so well done. It just shows that there is another fun little behind the scenes fact I did want to mention about the movie as well though, is about that whole ending monologue bit. Just another fun little tidbit is that Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig's whole thing there is originally they had actually planned out like the storyboarded that whole sequence a little differently. Because they, didn't want to have him doing all this at once. And then Daniel Craig shows up to set and he's like, so I have the entire monologue memorized front to back, like 100%. And Rian Johnson's like, wait, what? So he like changed around a lot of it to give him a lot more long takes and like give him a lot more time to chew it up, because he's like, we have to take advantage of some of this. Cause he just like was not even expecting that he would just come to set. Like, I know, because it's like pages, it's like 20 straight pages of monologue. Like that, like he just memorized all that. And that's incredible to me.
That is awesome.
Oh my gosh. And he's had a dialect coach as well. And they did such a great job making that fucking accent.
It works so well.
Yeah. I know so many people who don't like the accent. It hurts me.
No, it's so good.
It's amazing.
It's so, cause like, especially with, like Agatha Christie novels, the main detective in that, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah. It's like Hercules Poirot. Is that what it is?
Poirot.
Yeah. Hercules. Yeah.
So like Poirot is like described as like having this like super European accent. And so I think it's really funny to like, but it's like not European. It's like a foreign accent. They don't really describe the exact dialect. And then you have DeBlanc, who has just like a really heavy southern accent, but it's like it's not quite southern. It's like southern, but
it's so unique.
Yes.
And Chris Evans at one point is like CSI KFC.
Yeah.
It's just like so many, I don't know. It's just so, what's funny, another fun fact is originally for the sequel, Rian Johnson had actually considered the idea of for every different like Knives Out movie, just giving him a completely different accent and not ever explaining it.
That would be so fucking funny. Oh my
God. I was really hoping they would have done that. They didn't. But I think also I love his accent enough that it didn't like offend me. I was like, okay, this is still great. But that would have been like, imagine. That would have been so funny.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great though. I mean, it's just all around.
Is there any other like major points you want to talk about, or do you want to talk about some of these incredible quotes?
Not. The only other thing I have to say is that the first time I watched this movie was like, I think it was opening night on Thanksgiving 2019. I was all alone on Thanksgiving. Everyone abandoned me. And I was like, how am I going to celebrate Thanksgiving? I'm going to go see this movie. And I went to see this movie. That was the only thing I did on Thanksgiving. And I sat next to an old lady the whole time. And we were just like scooched right together. And she kept like looking at me weird. And I was like, okay. And then that I was like, this is still a good movie. But it was a very weird, interesting experience. It
added to the vibe.
Yeah. So I was like, that was the most, one of the weirdest, unique experiences I had. Like just on the day and everything. I don't know, it was very strange. It just popped in my head. Anyway, yes, quotes though.
Let's talk about quote of the movie.
There's so many good quotes. I'm gonna have to like skip around a little bit, but there's just so many fucking good. Okay, already one of my, because there's so many fucking quotes that are like iconic almost. Like they stay in my brain from the beginning of the movie. One of my favorite, just very subtle, fucking stupid little things is on the TV show that Marta's sister's watching, where they're like, "You'll never prove it. We have the nanny cam footage."
Yes.
Like it's just so fucking.
I was kind of like, just let him watch the show. Like I know that there's 2 minutes left. That would have pissed me off too.
Oh my God, honestly. No, yeah, you're like, come on, just finish. It's just so like I don't know. It's just the goofy little dialogue in there. It's just so silly.
It's so
and
good.
It's great.
So the first quote that I have written down is, "He is literally a Nazi."
The boy is literally a Nazi.
It's just like the cousin that has like the alt-right ideals.
Oh, dude, it's so funny. It's so funny. Oh, yeah. Some of Benoit's little quips at them about their self-started business.
Yeah.
So like, I built my business from the ground up. Like your father. Like just fucking or then also like right after that he goes, seems like all his kids are self-made overachievers.
Yes.
It's so fucking funny. It's so good.
I have one that Jamie Lee Curtis's character says to the detective, and she goes, "Are you baiting me right now, detective?" And then the next shot is her husband just spilling everything.
He didn't own shit.
Yeah.
It's so good. Oh my God. I quote I have that this one's I mostly felt like I had to quote out of obligation because it's like just so quoted. Like it's one of the most quoted lines from the movie. It's just it makes no damn sense. Compels me though. It's just everyone fucking quotes. And I know a lot of reviews around the time it came out, whether people would like put that up as like their thing for like it
works.
Yeah, it's just an iconic line.
I have the quote where Harlan's talking to Walt, and he goes, "They're not our books, son. They're my books."
Yeah. Oh God. Just a little quip from Harlan where I think you'll remember this. It's just when he's like, "Yeah, that's elder abuse."
I have that written down
that
as well.
So funny.
It's just it's such a funny, pure moment where you can see their character interactions. It's just so cute.
Yeah, he's just goofing around with her, and they can clearly see they have a friendship and connection. It's just it's a great little sequence.
Yes,
it's so good.
Right before that, I really like this quote. I think it's DeBlanc says, "Physical evidence can tell a clear story with a forked tongue."
Ooh, I do like. See, oh my God. Terrific. Another goofier one that I have is when Marta's trying to remember what Harlan had said to her. It's like, oh yeah, before the carved elephant, after the carved elephant, but for the carved elephant.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a little goofy little touch.
I like I haven't read it though. Neither have I. I like the title though.
Yeah. So good. Oh my God. And then he goes on his whole metaphor.
Yes.
I love his metaphor so much. Okay. My next one might be one of my very favorites, honestly.
Okay.
And it's something early on in the movie. And the fact that it's early on is what makes it so good, because they're talking about this in reference to immigrants, in reference to the immigrants and why they think they shouldn't be allowed in. And this is specifically what they say. They go, "We allow them in, and they think they own what's ours," and
that's
pays off so brilliantly.
That's really good.
I don't know if you've even caught that one on previous films, but I just like that shit blew
really
my
good.
mind. Yeah, it's so fucking. Oh, it's genius.
They're talking about, they're like, have you ever gone to a will reading, Marta? And he says, think of it like a community theater production of a tax return.
Yeah, that's actually the next one I had as well. Oh my God. After that, I have, this one's not as much of a quote as more of just something I wanted to note, because it is like, Blanc at one point talks about how he's like, oh yeah, the best judge of character is a dog. And I love how like 2 minutes later, when Ransom comes in, all the dogs attack him immediately. And so it's like right after he's like, best judge of characters dog, they immediately just like show you.
That's really good.
Yeah, no, it's so, there's so many bits like that. Another fun thing, and this movie kind of exposed the world because Rian Johnson told everyone about this trick, is that Apple has this rule, right, that villains and murderers in the movies cannot use iPhones. So up until now, there's like Rian Johnson's like, now I might ruin old movies for you, but if you ever notice that everyone's using an iPhone and one character is using like an Android or a Samsung, they're the killer. And in this movie, that was the case. And it's funny because they actually ended up playing with that, like because he had said that in Glass Onion, they have a whole way around that. But it's really funny because after that became a thing, it became like this huge fact that people would cite in like every movie and be like, oh yeah, he's using an Android, and this is like a huge thing.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Apple's just like, no, if you're the murderer, you cannot use an iPhone. And so whenever you just see the one character using an Android, that's usually going to be a tell.
I'm just saying, Toby uses an
Android. Oh shit, Toby's the imposter. Fuck.
So do you though.
Oh, yeah,
in fact, I think I'm the only one in the friend group that has an iPhone.
I just don't like Apple,
So the next series of quotes that I have, and I don't know if you just want me to just read them all.
Yeah, read them all.
They're all Ransom.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's all in that entrance like thing.
Yes.
So the first one that I have is only the help calls me Hugh.
Yeah.
I was like, he did not. Sorry, I have something.
And then they call back to that too. And then she's like, yeah, the reason that she called you Hugh is because you forced the help to all call you Hugh because you're an asshole.
Yep.
So good.
I also am a big fan of, I don't feel like talking. I'm distraught.
Yeah. Oh God.
And then he looks at Meg and he goes, how's the SJW degree going?
Oh, beautiful.
And then, of course, we already said this one, but matter of fact, eat shit. Yep. And then he goes on his eat shit, you eat shit.
It's so good. Oh, that whole sequence is so funny.
It's so good.
Just his entrance there.
Oh, and then I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
Marta, they're sitting at the cafe, and she's like, why are you helping me? And he goes, because fuck my family. And then he was the bad one.
Yep. Oh my God. This is another one I have just because I feel like, I don't know, in the movie it just kind of hits different to me because it's very just iconic where he's just they all go up to him after the will reading up to Benoit Blanc, and they're like, oh yeah, who do you suspect, or what's the murder? He goes, I suspect foul play. I have eliminated no suspects. I don't know. Like they have this big old dolly zoom, like zoom super fast in, like the entire room zooms all the way over to a close up of him right before this, and it's just this big entrance, and it's like that's when they all kind of crowd around him, and from that point on, Benoit Blanc becomes even more of a presence in the movie, leading so up to him basically like having all the dialogue for the last 30 minutes. It's so chills, man.
This also hits different in like the retelling of it. So Walt corners Marta outside of her home and starts talking to her about how she should give them back the money so that they can help her when it inevitably comes out that her mom isn't a legal immigrant. And so she's like, because Harlan gave me all of your resources.
Oh God, yes. She's like, so if you could be able to help me, then I can help me.
Right.
Because they're my resource. Oh my God, it's so good. I already mentioned this quote, but I'll say it again because before I quoted the movie, but I'll say it again because I think it is one of my favorites because I think it also just between both Knives Out movies and also Rian Johnson's new show, this is like the big thing where it's the complexity and the gray lie not in the truth, but what you do with the truth once you have it.
Yep.
And it's literally just so core to each of these different projects, and I love it. I love it.
This one's more of a funny one, but it's Ransom goes, "Are you flooring it?" And Marta goes, "I'm literally flooring it."
The tragedy of having a shitty car, man. Yeah. I feel it. Another random, just iconic quote that I don't know why it just always hits different for me. It was just when, as Blanca's first accusing Ransom of all this, Chris Evans is just like, well, that's some heavy duty conjecture. Like I don't know, it's just that line just hits different. Oh.
This one would be my vote for quote of the movie.
Okay.
Because not only is it the title, but it's also. I just think it's perfect.
Yeah.
They're talking about all the vultures swarming around, and they go, "Knives out, beaks bloody." It hits.
Yeah, no, that's a good. I love the title drops. They always hit different.
Yeah.
That's I'll wait to say more on that till Glass Onion.
Okay.
I love them. I love them a lot. The only other quote I have, which I've also mentioned, is just the heart with you gave him the correct medication because you are a good nurse. And I adore that. That shit hits.
The last quote that I have written down is just shit.
Well, shit. Yeah. Oh God, that's so good. I think fuck, which one? Yeah, I think the one where the immigrants that we allow them in.
I'm super down. I think it's really good.
That one's just incredible to me. I genuinely don't think I've even realized that before.
I didn't realize it until you said it just now, but because it doesn't feel like out of place in the movie that they're talking about immigration and all this politics, but actually the nuance of that it's incredible. And the hypocrisy of the new
because the ones who are saying this are the ones who are of course more conservative, arguing with the more liberal ones of them, but then all of them end up on that same message when it comes to Marta. It's so good.
Because they're also they're talking about, immigrants entering the country illegally to take what's not theirs when none of them have anything without their dad.
Yeah, literally.
They're all trying to take what's not
theirs.
And
that was one of the funniest things with it is it's when they're, I can't remember the character's name, but the youngest brother, the one who owns who manages the publishing company, right? And they all will take any opportunity to dog on him in the back. Well, he took what dad gave him and he made good with it. And it's you took the money your dad gave you and something similar. It's because they all want to just feel like they all deserve this, this is something they earned, when it's not. And it's it's you can be okay, whatever, nepotism baby, but the worst thing is if a nepo baby doesn't even acknowledge that they're no, this was all my heart. You have to at least acknowledge some privilege or you were put in this.
One thing that I really liked was there was an interview with Maya Hawke who
yes,
did you
I know
see that interview?
I know the interview,
where they were talking about how she feels about being called a nepo baby, and she was like, I am. She's like, but the thing is you only get so many chances, so I'm gonna try to do a really good job with any chance that I'm given, or I'm gonna stop getting chances.
Yeah. And that was awesome. And it was actually, I think that was literally around the same time as fucking the goddamn
Jamie Lee Curtis thing.
Jamie Lee Curtis thing. And she's just like, I will not own up to it. How dare you can say that about me? I earned this. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Literally.
Sure. How are you in Knives Out? I swear
but we should...
Yes, so quote of the movie. Yes, so again, we allow them in and they think they own what's ours. That was the quote, so I'm going to play the quote. So play it now.
No, we allow them in and they think they own their power.
That was me playing it. That was that bit. Yeah, oh my God. Oh.
So what are you rating this movie out of 10?
That's a good... See, I honestly, I've it's so funny because it's every time both between Knives Out and Glass Onion, because I've watched both a few times. Obviously, Knives Out more because it came out a few years ago. But every time I watch one, I'm like, this is my favorite one. No, this is my favorite one. No, this one. And of course, watching this, I'm like, this is so good. I'm gonna say 9.5. So I didn't think I was, but I am. So
I'm gonna give it You know what? I'll give it a 9.5 as well. I was going to give it a 9.
Yeah.
I was going to give it a 9 originally, but I think I'm going to give it a 9.5. The only reason it is not a perfect 10 for me is because there are parts that feel like they drag on. I don't feel like I would change any of those parts.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I don't feel like this would be like a comfort movie for me. And for it to be I guess 8th Grade wasn't a comfort movie for me either.
Yeah.
But like I just feel like there's nothing I would change, but yeah, it's just not.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I after I first watched, I didn't like immediately rewatch it or anything. And I just don't give perfect 10s. There's nothing I would change about it either. But
You gave 8th Grade a perfect 10.
Yeah, that was the exception.
Word.
But yeah, so that means our final score is in fact 9.5. So that's cool.
Caleb.
Yeah.
What are we watching next week?
Oh, that's a
Or
crazy
2 weeks
question.
from
That's
now.
well, we're gonna be not on next episode.
Next episode.
Yeah.
Caleb. What are we watching next episode?
Well, that is I'm gonna go a little twisty. So we just watched Knives Out, right? And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. It's not relevant though. I've been told recently. My mother said, Caleb, no one will ever watch or love you because you're never relevant. You always take too long, and no one will ever watch anything because you just like years behind with how long you take to do anything or talk about anything ever in a public manner. And I was like, yes, you're right, mother. And then I cried and I went home and I sobbed for a few days and I stayed locked in my room. And that led me to the decision that if we're going to do Knives Out, I may as well clap back with my own choice of a Glass Onion for the next one. A movie that really recently came out and is still pretty talked about. And there's discourse still about it because Netflix has that power, which is annoying given that they fucked the theatrical release so badly. But it's fine. That's the discussions for next week.
And I would like to make something clear. We don't do sequels on the podcast. We take the first of any movie series, and that's the one we're reviewing. However, this doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Because it is a separate movie.
Yeah, the only character who crosses over is Benoit Blanc because it's, a separate, mystery. Although, I mean, let's be real, the sequels rule isn't like a hard rule. Like, I mean, we're loose on it. We're trying to not like do, twos.
I'm standing strict.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm more loose on it,
We'll see.
We'll see. We just you can get a little in, then we'll maybe Hocus Pocus 2,
Okay, all right.
Other twos, probably twos that I actually like.
Twilight, New Moon.
Yeah,
Eclipse.
those ones.
Breaking Dawn, Part 1, and then of course
The Part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah, those.
I was gonna throw in a different movie at the end just to throw you off, but then I couldn't remember
And then season 2 of the Vampire Diaries specifically.
I couldn't think
big...
of literally another movie.
Oof.
The one that was popping into my head was Gremlins.
And then 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. So I do know you have some. Just before we get to the ending bit, since we are doing Glass Onion next week, we talk about our stuff our ideas of the movie before watching. I do know you know a little bit about Glass Onion, or you've at least seen discourse about it.
I've seen very little discourse.
Okay.
Essentially, it's the same thing that you've been talking about the whole podcast about how it subverts expectations.
We got her to say it, guys.
But I just was listening to people talk about how they didn't like it because they felt like the answer was too obvious. But that's the point.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited to see kind of, because I love shit like that. You know me, smooth brain moment. And so, but I want to see kind of why this was a big deal to the fandom. You know what I mean?
It's really interesting. It's fuck, I want to say it now. I could hold off. I refuse though. The name Glass Onion comes from this Beatles song, Glass Onion, and the whole thing with the Beatles song is that they were writing the song about how people look too hard for meaning in a lot of their songs. So they purposely didn't have meaning in there.
Yes,
so
that's exactly the I just didn't
Exactly. Yeah. So that's just a fun little like another thing. I feel like Knives Out might have also actually been a song title as well. I can't actually remember, but either way,
I'll
yes.
look it up, and if I find anything, I'll leave it in the comments.
Hey, that's the move. That's the move. We'd love to see that. All right. You know what else we love to see? You guys sometimes, maybe. We like when you listen to us or watch us. We are on all podcast platforms. That's cool. If you're watching on the YouTube video version, you could like, you could comment, you could do something quirky. Who's to say? Those are the things. That's the shilling.
I also want to say congratulations to us on hitting 500 subscribers on YouTube. I don't want to date us.
I was literally about to say, don't date us. I guess we'll leave it in now. Yes. Yeah, no, that is a cool thing. So yeah. I guess.
Thanks, guys.
It's whatever.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, I suppose. No, yeah, it's just I hope you guys all have great days. I hope you get good rest. I send hugs and cuddles and good vibes and warm, cozy feelings to all of you. And I hope that you fucking watch Poker Face on Peacock now. God damn, it's such a good show.
I am starving.
Let's
end this podcast.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Yes.